evening. Welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice.
And I am Alfred, Ocansey.
The news is also live on Ocansey 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. On Facebook, we're streaming live on 3FM 927. Coming up in the next 1.5 hours, President Mohammed's government begins to take shape as he names more appointees to key government positions. Tonight, we analyze the nominations plus gauge public expectations.
Also this evening here on Hot Edition, government begins carting and distribution of stored food items to senior high schools to tackle food crisis across the country.
Much later on the program, Fisheries Commissions confirms samples of fish with strange skin infections in the Elembele district of the Western region have been taken to the lab for testing.
And we have details of these, plus the latest in sports and some business news in the next 1 hour, 30 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesme 107.1 and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I will tell you what's happening in Parliament as well as we're getting strong indication the Honorable Boko Central Member of Parliament, Mahama Yariga, will replace Dr. Kesela Toforsen as the majority leader in this 9th Parliament. Stay with us with all the matters unfolding here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
Let's bring you the details of our stories now. And a government delegation is currently touring food warehouses to facilitate the evacuation and distribution of food items to senior high schools across the country. The rice stored in the warehouses will be distributed today after the inspection by the team. Well, President Mahama at a national prayer and thanksgiving service held on Sunday directed the Chief of Staff to work with the Ghana Education Service to allocate and distribute food that is currently held in warehouses in Tema. This development follows a recommendation by the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, urging parents to provide their children with food supplies due to difficulties in securing adequate provisions for students. And Christian Yale is currently with the team. He joins us live on the line. Christian, if you can hear us, can you bring us up to speed on the progress of this tour? All right, Christian Yale will be joining us very shortly. But a member of the Government Education Committee and MP for Bulsa South, Dr. Clement Apak, says Buffer Stock Company and Food Supplies will not be in charge of procuring and supplying food to schools under the new administration.
Well, we are currently in Tema to execute the directive that the President gave with regards to some rice in stock, which should go to secondary schools to ensure that our wards in the various secondary schools across the country are fed. So we are here, and very soon the loading of the rice and the various trucks that will be taking the rice to different parts of the country to the distribution centers will commence. We want to use this opportunity to reassure Ghanaians and parents that working with the Ministry of Education, working with CHAS and the Ghana Education Service, the President's directive has been given effect. We will provide more details in terms of the quantities and the itinerary in terms of the various phases. Given the nature of the country, it's not expected that the rice would get to all the schools today or tomorrow. But we are very hopeful that once we start, within a week, every school should have received its consignment of rice. So that is why we are here to give effect to the President's directive. We've been working at it for the past few days, but finally we are happy to announce that beginning today, the distribution will begin from the warehouse here in Tema, where the rice is currently lodged, to the schools where the rice is most needed.
So tell me about the other directive, the conversation between government and CHAS and the other financial support that you're going to give them in addition to even distributing these food items.
Yes, it's also pleasing and heartwarming to know that after meetings between the Chief of Staff and CHAS, as well as the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service, Ghana TV Service, based on the appeal made and the complaints about potential food shortages and inadequate food in some of our schools. government, through the Chief of Staff, acting on orders of the President, is working with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Education to get funds released to the ministry for onward disbursement to the schools to procure the food items needed. And as we know, there are 18 food items approved by the ministry and the Ghana Education Service required to feed our wards in the various secondary schools. And this would also be in fulfillment of John Dramani Mahaman's promise to decentralize the feeding arrangements. Contrary to what was the status quo, with the current arrangements, the National Buffer Stock Food Company or its affiliate would not be in charge of procuring and supplying food. What is going to happen henceforth is that the resources needed to procure the food would go to the heads of the institutions. They would identify their own suppliers and procure the food directly. And we believe that this would not only ensure that our wards consume wholesome, nutritious food, but it would also remove the middleman role that is being played by buffer stock food suppliers, and to allow for the heads of the institutions to take direct charge of procuring and supplying food to our wards as expected. So in the next day or two, we will be able to announce to the public that the funds have reached the ministry and that action has been taken. But I can assure the good people of Ghana and parents that the processes are far advanced, and very soon we expect that the Ministry of Finance will confirm having released the needed amount to the Ministry of Education for onward disbursement to the schools to procure the much needed food items.
And you heard there a member of the Government Education Committee and MP for Bulsa South, Dr. Clement Apak. Let's go to Christian Yali now, who is with the team currently. He joins us live on the phone. Christian, aside from what we just heard Dr. Apak tell us, can you bring us up to speed as regards the progress of this tour?
Exactly. And so, Beatrice, as I speak to you right now, about 2 military trucks have been packed, and then hundreds of bags of rice are being loaded into these 2 trucks for onward distribution to the affected schools in the Greater Accra region, as well as other regions that have been heavily affected by the food shortages. And so, as I speak to you right now, in your background, if you can hear, there are the bags of rice that are being thrown into these trucks for them to be properly packed and then loaded for them to be distributed to the regions. And I can confirm to you also that all of this is being done in a heavy security presence, because we have the military who are here. We also have the Ghana Police Service personnel who are also here, ensuring that nothing goes amiss. And so that is the current, update concerning this tour. A warehouse, one of the warehouses, has been opened, and a truck fully loaded with bags of rice just came out, and then they are offloading these bags of rice into the military truck for distribution.
Into the military truck for distribution. But Christian, are you able to tell us the extent of shortage based on the information you have, and whether or not these food items would be enough, and for how long, really?
Yeah, let me take it from the very last leg of your question. What we know per the briefing I've had with the Government Education Committee member, Dr. Apak, is that the food items that are being distributed or that are being, offloaded for distribution right now are expected to take a period of 1 month from today. So we are estimating over 1,400 bags of rice that are going to be supplied to the affected school for the period of 1 month, the next 1 month. Very briefly, we'll get a proper briefing as to the exact quantities in terms of the schools that these bags of rice are being distributed to, the regions that are involved. I earlier wanted to get that understanding from Dr. Apak, but he asked me to wait a little longer because they were still finalizing. Also because we have GES officials here who are doing this together with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and also the Finance Ministry in clearing some of these food items. And so they were now trying to harmonize the data, and then they'll get back to us on the exact quantities and the schools involved. So But I can confirm to you that there are over 1,400 bags of rice that are being offloaded right now. And then all of these are going to cover a period of 1 month. And then after which there'll be other interventions, including the disbursement of funds directly into the coffers of the heads of school for them to procure the specific items that they need. Like you played earlier, that instead in which he talks about the fact that they are going to decentralize the supply of food items so that the heads of the schools now take charge and not the buffer stock company or even the food suppliers.
Indeed, we heard Dr. Clementa Park say that. Do you know whether the food will reach the schools tonight? It's already past 5 p.m. Just asking you two questions in one, and whether or not this exercise would continue until they've emptied the warehouses, just so each school suffering this shortage would have food items.
Beatrice, I can tell you that not all the food items would reach all the schools, also because it is not one region that is involved. So I know that there are a couple of schools in the Greater Accra region. I'll still get those exact details that these items are being supplied to. And so those within Greater Accra are able to get them today and by the end of today. But for the ones that are going beyond the Greater Accra region, we know that they are not going to receive the items today, but probably entering into Friday, which is tomorrow, they'll receive the food items. So that is the update that we have. And yes, indeed, it is going to continue until there is adequate food supply in the schools that have been worstly hit by this food shortage issue that we've been talking about. But it also answers the question about how CHAS had always wanted to get this whole supply of food items decentralized so that they take charge of it. Their answer or their question or their demand on one breath has been answered today as the government, the new government, has taken into consideration the decentralization of this exercise so that they themselves take charge of it. And so we'll seek to get, some more answers, like you are asking me about whether we are going to get all the warehouses emptied, or once the food items are enough in the schools, we cease the distribution. And you know that these were not even originally brought for supply to schools, but they were brought to cater for the food shortages that we experienced due to the challenges that the farmers had roughly around the last quarter of 2024. And so this is a stopgap measure that government is implementing as it lays a proper foundation for the period going forward.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Christian Yale. He's a man with this team that is currently ensuring that food stuff taken from warehouses to reach the schools that are having difficulty with food. So let's get some more answers. Peter Nochukotoi is also part of the government delegation. He's Member of Parliament for Akachi North as well. He joins us live on the phone. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you very much.
First of all, let me find out from you. We just had a reporter there telling us how much food items are being taken from the warehouses and being taken to various schools. Are you able to tell us the quantity as at now? Do you have your numbers? And how soon you think these food items will reach the schools?
Thank you very much, and good evening to you and your listeners. Yes, following the directive given by the President to the Chief of Staff to distribute the food items at the warehouse in Keva to the various secondary schools, since Monday we have been meeting on the modalities to see how best we can get the food items to the various institutions. We've finalized the arrangements, and so far we have come to a conclusion that 139,872 bags will be needed for the next 31 days to feed our students. We have done the background check, and we realized that some schools don't need the rice at all because they have quite a number in stock. So schools that don't have the required quantity are those going to benefit in the meantime. Remember I said for the next 31 days. Yeah. So we are in Chema now at the warehouse where the military is assisting us to cut the rice to the various centers. We have 54 centers across the country. We are beginning with Greater Accra this evening. So what your reporter told you is true. The first two vehicles are about to leave for the research center which says Greater Accra. Following that, next we will not engage in centers again. We will do direct distribution to the schools. But in the meantime, we want to use the centers so that the rice can get to them as quickly as possible. Tomorrow, the next batch will leave for central and central and eastern regions. We are expecting more trucks tomorrow to enable us to catch as many as. So within the next 4 or 5 days, the rice should be able to reach all schools. Then in addition, we have also started down to see how much each school will need for purchase of other food items. So monies will be released very soon. The Ministry of Finance is working on it so that they can get money released direct to the schools so that they can engage in the purchase or procurement of other food items as quickly as possible.
You're saying that the first step is taking the food to centers in Accra. Do I assume that perhaps the schools in Accra may start getting theirs early tomorrow?
Yeah, the food will get there this evening. We are at the warehouse now where the vehicles have been loaded. They will leave for recheck right now. And we have instructed the headmaster there to call the affected senior high school head to take delivery of their rice early tomorrow morning.
You are saying that after this batch of giving the food to the centers, you're going to be distributing directly to the various schools. Aside from that, we also heard Dr. Clementa Park talking about decentralization of the distribution process and the fact that you're even going to include the schools so that the schools are directly the ones procuring for these food items and stuff. Are you able to give us a bit more clarity or information as regards how you intend to go with this process moving forward?
Yeah, we start down with the officials of the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service. And as part of our party manifesto for the 2024 elections, we agreed that we will decentralize the procurement of food items and other things that they will need in each of the senior high schools. But in the meantime, because of the emergency situation that we are facing, we have agreed that money for 2 weeks should be released to the schools immediately so that the school authorities with their accountants, with their procurement officers and heads of departments and assistant heads can form the procurement committee and make sure that apart from the rice, other food items that will be needed will be procured as soon as possible so that we avert any shortages of food in our senior high schools. So the decentralization is going to take place, but we will need to work it out. But because of the emergency situation, that is why we are releasing money direct to the schools now. Let them do the purchases for 2 weeks, which I think within the shortest possible time, we will come out with some modalities for the decentralization.
The 2 weeks you're giving, do I take it to mean that that is the deadline, quote unquote, you're giving the finance ministry to release these monies for this emergency that we have at hand?
No, we have asked Minister of Finance to as quickly as possible release money. The memo has been sent to the government representatives at the Ministry of Finance, and we are told that they are working on it seriously. So in a few days, maybe tomorrow or Monday, I think they would have finalized the release of funds, because it will have to go to the Ministry of Education, which will now credit the accounts of the various schools per student population. Yes, that's what is going to happen.
Before I let you go, maybe quickly, how dire is this food shortage situation across the senior high schools we're talking about? Just for the benefit of parents who are listening to us right now, who have been called upon by CHAS to bring food to their wards.
Yeah, when we met with CHAS on Monday, the situation they painted was very gloomy. That some schools did not have anything to give to the students. So they were feeding them with one type of food. Maybe, for example, they have only rice. So in the morning, it is something in form rice, and another form in the afternoon, another form in the evening. So there was no balanced diet, and the schools did not have money to buy food from any source to feed them. So that was why they were forced to tell parents to support their wards in the various secondary schools. And we have realized that if we did not take any step immediately, the schools might close down, and we're not interested in that. So we wanted the situation averted, and that's why the Chief of Staff formed this committee to enable us find a solution to the challenges. So the situation was very bad. Some schools did not have food. Even, flour and other ingredients that they needed, in fact, were not available.
I want to appreciate your time on this. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you, too.
And let's get some more on this. The General Secretary of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, CHAS, Primus Barrow, joins us live on the line. Hopefully he's on with us to have this continuous conversation on. He'll be joining us very shortly.
And now, before we get off the hook on that one, we're still monitoring reactions, especially from parents who are listening to us right now about the situation with the lack of food. That's a shortage, the food shortage across some senior high schools in the country. And if you recall, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools had called on parents to bring food items, to the children in the schools to augment the efforts by the senior high schools because of this shortage of food items there. If you're on our Facebook page right now on 3FM 927, you'll see some young men carrying bags of rice, offloading them into a military van. And we understand that this distribution is being led by the military, and the military deployment that has been dispatched to also augment the efforts of government, and that particular committee that has been put in place by the President, John Dramani Mahama, to ensure that the food items that were stored in warehouses in Tema for disaster and also this drought purposes are released for the purpose of feeding school children in the various senior high schools is executed. So if you go on our Facebook page right now, we're showing you live videos of what's happening in some warehouses in Tema right now. Some bags of rice, hundreds of them being offloaded into military vans for onward distribution to senior high schools across the country. But away from that, President John Mahama's ministerial team is gradually taking shape with another 12 appointments earlier today announced. Today's list comprises 3 regional ministers and 9 other key ministers, including the Education Ministry, and one that we've been talking about for quite a while now, Haruna Idrisu, the Member of Parliament for the Town and Source constituency, and then also a former minority leader in the 8th Parliament, heads to the Education Ministry, governs Kwame Agboja. The Adaklo Member of Parliament is heading to the Ministry of Roads and Highways as Minister for Roads and Highways designate. Agnes Na Momo Late is a Member of Parliament for the Krowa constituency. She has been nominated for the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Also, Jifa Gomashi is heading to the Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts Ministry. Giorgio Pariado, the current youth organizer of the NDC, is heading to the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. This is the new ministry created by this administration, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. Giorgio Pariado is heading to that ministry. What that effectively means is that the National Youth Organizer position for the NDC is going to be vacant, and that has to be filled. Now, for the Local Government Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Ministry, this is another new ministry we're seeing in this John Mahama-led administration. That is the merger of the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Ministry with the Local Government Ministry. Ahmed Ibrahim, the current Deputy Majority Chief Whip in this 9th Parliament, is heading to the Local Government Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Ministry. Eric Opoku is also heading to the Food and Agriculture Ministry as a Minister Designate. Emilia Arthur, who is the Shama Member of Parliament in this 9th Parliament, is heading to the Fisheries and Aquaculture Ministry. Emilia Arthur, in the late John Evans Tamil's administration, was a Deputy Western Regional Minister. And for this particular nomination by John Mahama, the President, she's heading to the Fisheries and Aquaculture Ministry. And Eduamwa Archery has also been nominated for the Central Region as the Central Regional Minister Designate. Joseph Nelson has also been named as the Western Regional Minister Designate, and John Kojo Japong has also been announced today as the Western North Regional Minister Designate. That's what we do know right now. And indeed, this has generated some conversation about, for instance, the gender balance in there, plus how things are shaping up with the 60 ministers promise that John Mahama made in the run-up to election 2024. So far, 25 appointments have been made, 35 more pending, and we're going to get into those 35 shortly. And out of the ministries, in fact, the announcement of the various nominations so far, 12 out of the 23 that have been appointed. We'll get some breakdown on it. Wisdom Safo is a research officer, is here with us. Wisdom, we're looking at the headline figures and also the statistics right now, but there's some detail in there which is quite crucial, as you know. Let's start off with the outstanding ministries so far that we're yet to hear appointments made by the president. What are those?
Okay, thank you very much, Alfred. So for the remaining ministerial appointments, we have 8. That's the substantive ministers. We have the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, Interior, Transport, Sports and Recreation, Land and Natural Resources, Labor, Jobs and Employment, and Foreign Affairs Ministry. These are the outstanding ministry substantive. Now we have 3 regional ministers, or regions yet to have ministers. Yeah, so we have the Upper West region, the Bono region, and the Bono East region.
Upper West, Bono, and the Bono East region.
Yeah. So if you combine all these, we have so 3 for the regions and about 8. Yeah, 8 for the substantive ministries.
So that's 11.
Yeah, that's 11. But we don't have deputies yet. Yeah, so we are not going to that conversation now.
Absolutely, because even if you're going to do the mathematics and with the 23 ministries that were announced on Saturday, if we do the math and we're going to put deputies, at least 1 deputy to all of them, and then with the 16 regional ministers, that's going to push the numbers to 62.
Yes.
So that means that there's going to be some ministries without deputies.
Exactly. So now we have 16 regions. So 23 times 2, that will give us 46. And 46 plus 16 is giving us 62, as you rightly mentioned. And John Dramani Mahama promised 16 ministers. So it means if he wants to meet that 60 ministers mark, then something must be done. So some ministries will not have deputies, as you rightly mentioned.
And how about the female representation as well? Because we see that also playing out. That gender conversation has come up already.
Yes.
How many women have been announced as ministers designate so far?
Okay, so out of the 25 appointees so far, we have 18 of them being men and 7 women. And if you take the percentages, we have 28% of the appointees being females or women. So it's quite encouraging. So let's see.
It's almost 30%.
Yes.
I mean, she's not
appointed. That's a big ticket, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's almost 30%.
Almost 30%,
I mean, that's the promise that was made. I see. Interesting stuff right there. But let's look at the parliamentary leadership as well. So that what this effectively means, Wisdom, is that Gavin Kwame Agboja, who is the majority chief whip, that position is going to be vacant,
yes,
if he is eventually confirmed as the Minister for Roads and Highways.
Yes, please.
And then when you look at as well his deputy that has also been nominated, that's Ahmed Ibrahim.
Yes.
For the Ministry of Local Government,
Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs.
So those two leadership positions in this 9th Parliament for the majority NDC would also be vacant. And remember, the majority leader
has been the position has been filled already by Ayariga. Ibrahim Ayariga.
Yes, Mahama Ayariga.
Sorry, Mahama Ayariga. They have tipped him to be the replacement for Honorable Kesel Ato Forsen. But the two vacant whip's position, it's yet to be revealed who will be occupying those positions.
Very interesting development, and we're also hearing some strong signals from the presidency that Emmanuel Kofibo as well may be appointed into some of the ministries yet to be announced. What that effectively means is that the entire leadership front of the NDC in this 9th parliament will be changed or replaced, because already 3 of them are gone. And then you have just Comfort Doyo and then also Emmanuel Kofibo effectively remaining there. So it's interesting how the days ahead will look like. But apart from that as well, I want us to also take into consideration, there was a point that you made earlier about the ministries that have not been filled yet.
Yes,
let's run through that again, just for the benefit of those who are just joining us right now. There are how many regions that are yet to be filled?
So 3 regions, namely Upper West region, the Bono region, and the Bono East region. And for the substantive ministries yet to be filled, we have the Ministry of Health, Defense, Interior, Transport, Sports and Recreation, Land and Natural Resources, Labor, Jobs and Employment, and Foreign Affairs Ministry.
Interesting stuff. Wisdom, appreciate you for this. And if you go on our Facebook page right now, at 3FM 927, we're showing you a breakdown of what Wisdom just put out there right now. So there's some detail if you go on our Facebook page at 3FM 927, and you'll get to know exactly what we're talking about with the regional ministers.
Indeed. I mean, we wanted to just bring our listeners in terms of the kind of persons who have been appointed by the president to go to the various ministries and the regions. And Wisdom, I know you've got some information on these latest individuals who were announced today going to substantive ministries as well as the regions.
So today we received 12 substantive ministries, and so let me go through the ministries one after the other. Let's start with the Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. So Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim has been appointed to that ministry. For his experience, he's currently the MP for Ten and Banda, and he's the Deputy Majority and Minority Whip. He's a former CEO of Flamingo Publication. Flamingo.
When I saw that, I was interesting.
Okay, so for his education, he has an MBA in Finance from GIMPA, a BA in Political Science and Philosophy from the University of Ghana. So let's go to the Ministry of Road and Highways. We have Honorable Kwame Gavins Abuja. He's currently the MP for Adaklu. He's the Deputy Ranking Member and Ranking Member of so he's currently the minority. He was the minority chief whip, and he has also held the majority chief whip position as well. And for his education, he's a chartered architect from the KNUST, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the Westminster University, East London University as well. He's a principal consultant at K Plus Partners Limited. So Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Honorable Jifa Abla Gomashi. He's 2-term MP for K2 South, former Deputy Minister for Tourism, Arts and Creative Arts, Culture and Creative Arts. His education, he has BFA. She had MPhil in African Studies from the University of Ghana, and honorary doctorate of leadership from the Global Center for Transformational Leadership. Now, for the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, we have Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu Ejare. She's a former Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, and she also she's a business executive and also a legal expert. She's a lawyer and an expert when it comes to international relations as well. For Ministry of Food and Agriculture, we have Honorable Eric Opoku. He's a MP, ranking member on Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee as well in Parliament. He has a BA in Economics and Law from KNUST, an LLM in International Business from the University of Essex. And he has a certification in Legislative Drafting and Fisheries Management as well. So for the Ministry of Education, we have Honorable Haruna Idrisu. He's an MP, former Majority and Minority Leader, former Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, and also he has held the Minister for Communications position as well. For his education, he has BA in sociology from the University of Ghana. He's a barrister at law from the Ghana, under the Ghana Bar Association. And Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, we have Miss Agnes Na Momolate. She's an MP for Krowo constituency, former General Secretary for NALAC, and Executive Director for GIRD. She has a PhD in African Studies. Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture, we have Miss Emilia Arta. With experience, she's a former presidential staffer, deputy regional minister, district chief executive as well. Her education, she attended the Yale University and GIMPA as well. We have, for Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, we have Mr. George Opariado, and he's a national youth organizer for the NDC, former municipal chief executive for Ikuapem North. Education, he's a lawyer and a business executive. Now, these are the ministers' appointees for the substantive ministries. Now, we are moving on to the regions, the regional.
The additional 3 mentioned
today. And for the Western region, we have Mr. Joseph Nelson. For the Western region, we have Mr. Joseph Nelson. He's a former regional director for YEA, and he has extensive experience in finance and economic management. With education, he has a BA in economics from the University of Northampton, MSc in international finance from the University of Glasgow, and MSc in microfinance from the University of Cape Coast. Now, for Western North region, we have Mr. Wilbert Petty Braintum. Mr. Wilbert Petty Braintum. He is a politician, a chartered accountant, a former assemblyman of Joaboso electoral area. He's a local government professional and a mining expert as well. Then for Central region, that's the last one on the list. We have Mr. Eduamwa Eko Penny Ochre. He's a 2-term MP for Gumwa East, executive director of the Center for Artisan and Apprentice Development. For his education, he has an MBA in General Management, an LLB from the University of Cape Coast, and a diploma in Management Studies. So these are the background of the ministers of state designate.
And indeed the ones for the regions. Thank you so much, Wisdom Staffo, for bringing us these updates.
Beatrice, earlier you spoke to Dr. Jonathan Asanchotre, and he had a few thoughts to share on this particular matter.
Well, in terms of Ministry of Roads and Highways, I know that Kwame Govins Agboja, that is his area of expertise, and that he's also been the what we call a shadow minister or ranking member in that particular area. Of course, when the former president said that they had constructed 12,000 kilometers of road, he had to come out with the actual fact of the roads that have been constructed in this country. And so if you send somebody like that to roads and highways, it is in order. Of course, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, even the opposition, the minority leader himself, said that when it comes to figures in that area, when Mr. Ekopoku speaks, you cannot challenge that. And so I wouldn't want to belabor the point on that. Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Now, one thing that is significant that I may have to mention before I continue is the fact that out of the 9 substantive ministers that the president came out with, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them being females. So we are talking about 4 and 5. And that for me is very significant. It appears that in actual fact, the president is living by his word. And of course, once you've been able to pick a woman as a vice president, then you are going to have female, representation and prevalence as far as ministerial positions are concerned. Other than that, it will just be a matter of lip service. And so he's living according to the kinds of things that he said. So that being said, tourism, culture, and creative art, we all know the long experience of, Madame Jifagomashi in that area. And so it's as if the president is looking at people's expertise and he's sending them there. I do not know much about Emilia Arthur. Is it the one at Shama?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then that one too is in order. She has that long experience in that area. Youth development and empowerment. Well, if you look at the way and manner Mr. Pariado marshaled the youth, number one, he was, of course, the National Youth Organizer, having delivered that to the party. I think this is more rewarding. That being said, don't forget that he also has a professional competency in law, and in terms of organization, he's also demonstrated that. So for someone who the president believes will have to understand things youthful, I think that is also a good choice. The issue of education, that is why I have a little contention. But that is not to say that Haruna Idrisu that I know in time past, when he was even the Minister for Labor and Employment.
And Trade.
Labor Relations and Employment, yes. Whenever we went on strike and we met, you could see the rapport, the friendly rapport that he had with the unions. And by the time that we will leave fulfilled, knowing very well that we are going to get, our request granted. I don't know the what's it called? The appointment or the nominations. No, the president has not exhausted the nominations.
Yes,
but
he hasn't.
I was thinking that somebody with such professional competency in that area, like Professor Odro, for example, who was among the bulwarks of the manifesto committee, and in terms of education and planning. And you remember the kinds of things that he revealed when it came to the free SHS implementation and the implementational challenges that the government was encountering. He was able to come up with alternatives, letting everybody understand, appreciate where he was coming from. So this is a ministerial position. I don't know where probably the president will want to place him, because if indeed you are talking about, and mind you, as I said, Mr. Aruna is someone who can easily adapt to any area. He's demonstrated his competency over the period. And I was thinking that with the current challenges in that area, the president could have looked at Professor Odro in that manner.
Well, that's Dr. Jonathan Asantioche is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Political Science Department. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in 1 beyond. Let's just stay a bit further on the matters of this ministerial appointment announced earlier today, because what that has happened, the impact of what we're seeing over the last few appointments announced is on the leadership of this 9th Parliament. The majority NDC leadership in this 9th Parliament. Member of Parliament for the Boko Central, Mama Yariga, is expected to, all things being equal, lead this majority caucus in this 9th Parliament. Mama Yariga is a 5-time Member of Parliament, also served as Minister for Youth and Sports, Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation in the past. This 5-time MP we're talking about also served as the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Deputy Education Minister. He's had vast experience across a number of sectors in this country. This position of the majority leader in this 9th Parliament became vacant following the nomination of Minister Designate for Finance, Dr. Kesela Toforsin, just about a week ago. The NDC caucus in Parliament also delayed in forming their leadership, mainly due to this ongoing ministerial appointment. It was expected that the ministerial appointment will heavily impact on the persons who have led the NDC in this 8th Parliament and into the early hours of this 9th Parliament. Now, the man who has been following all of these dynamics is joining us right now. Samuel Obeng is the Executive Director of the Africa Parliamentary Network. Mr. Obeng, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, with what we are seeing effectively, the appointments announced so far has taken away it's about 4 people so far from in fact 3 of them from the NDC leadership in this 9th Parliament. I'm talking about the majority leader himself, Dr. Kesela Toforsin. We're seeing Gavin Kwame Agboja as well. Today has been announced as the Roads and Highways Minister Designate. And then also we're having the Member of Parliament in the the Bono East region. I'm talking about Ahmed Ibrahim also being announced as the Minister for Local Government Chieftaincy as well. These are three key members of the leadership of the NDC in this 9th Parliament. How does this strike you?
Well, this is not surprising. Remember that one of the reasons why the NDC majority in Parliament did not name any new set of leaders when the 9th Parliament was constituted was because we got indications that they wanted to only change after His Excellency the President has named his ministers, so that any of the people in leadership who get the opportunity to join the executive could be replaced. And so it's not surprising, first of all, that 3 members of the leadership or the front bench of the NDC in Parliament had been named ministers. Remember also that at the time when these people, especially Mr. Goja, Mr. Forsing, and Mr. Boa, were selected as members of the leadership of the front bench of the then minority in Parliament, were told by the party that they were being selected because they were their leading voices on specific issues which they thought would drive the elections of 2024. And so post-elections, if the party had won, it was to be expected that these people who were seen as the champions within the party in Parliament on the specific sectors will be drawn out of Parliament to join the executive branch. So nothing strange, really.
I see, but we're now waking up to the announcement of all things being equal, the Honorable Mama Yaraga replacing Dr. Kesela Toforsing as the majority leader in this 9th Parliament. You're one person who has worked in Parliament. You followed his work quite closely in Parliament as well. How does this announcement come to you?
Well, if the news we're hearing is anything to go by, one will have to consider whether Mr. Yariga qualifies to step into that hot shoes as honorable majority leader and leader of government business in Parliament. For a 5-time member of Parliament, I think there is enough parliamentary experience to be able to give him that particular opportunity. Remember that of the 4 terms that he has already served, with this term being the 5th, I think about 3 of those terms were during periods when his party was not in power. And so he had the opportunity to stay in Parliament, to do a lot of parliamentary committee work. And he's a respected voice within the NDC and in Parliament, among one of the senior members of their caucus. And so it's not surprising. Of course, one does not need to be a lawyer to be a leader of the front benches of the various caucuses, but a deep understanding of the rules of the House, the standing orders of the House, a deep appreciation of how to debate and stand on and think on one's feet, and to be able to make very cogent arguments is needed. Knowing already who is the leader of the minority side, it was important that the majority side has someone who is an equally good debater, someone who equally understands the laws and the rules, practice and procedures of Parliament, and someone who is equally respected within the caucus. Seeing also some of the issues that we were told or we had contributed to the removal of Mr. Haruna Idrisu and his team from the front bench of the then minority, which included some form of fallout with the party leadership, which included some form of fallout with the speakership at the time. One would certainly be expecting that whoever gets elected, considering that the same leadership exists in the party, the same speaker, is retained, one will certainly expect that whoever is selected as majority leader will be one who, has solid relationships with these persons and groups of persons. And so, knowing Mr. Herga, we know that, these are relationships that exist and they could be leveraged. Last but certainly not least is the fact that the majority leader is not only majority leader, but becomes leader of government business in Parliament. What it means is that must be certainly a person who wields a lot of influence over the executive branch, who is able to marshal his colleagues in the executive to be able to come to Parliament and to be able to execute government business. And I think he fits the bill.
Now, he fits the bill, but this position also demands someone who has that ability to rally everybody as a leadership quality to a particular line and whip everybody into line. Do you see Mahama Ayariga having that kind of influence on the other members of this majority caucus to be able to achieve that particular objective?
I have not seen any reason to doubt his abilities to do that. But I must be quick in adding that, the ability to marshal members of one's caucus in Parliament is not only a responsibility of a leader of the caucus. The deputy leaders come to play, the whips come to play very seriously. And so I will be looking forward to seeing who else gets appointed to join him, in that front benches. Because remember that the whip is gone.
That's right, and his deputy is also gone.
Exactly,
yeah.
The deputy whip is gone. It's very likely that the deputy leader would also be gone, and so it makes for a very new front bench. As to whether there will be a return of some of the old folks who were changed, and even when it comes to the old folks, we know that the changes only reflected in the then leader, minority leader, who is now also appointed as minister. His deputy is no longer in Parliament. His chief whip, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, is perhaps the only one who's not heard about where he's headed. And so, to make for the leadership of a caucus, an effective leadership of a caucus, is an all-round thing, and it's about who makes up all of the roles. So it would be too early to just judge the efficacy of the leadership of the majority only on the back of Mr. Ayariga as majority leader, if the information we're getting is right. It will be a collective effort of all of the colleagues that he will be given to work with. And so we look forward to seeing the list and we'll take it up from there.
Sami, appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
Pleasure always.
Sami Obeng is Executive Director of the Africa Parliamentary Network, talking to us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Before we get into business, a former Director General of the National Lottery Authority and NPP MP for Ekuapem North, Sami Ewuku, has expressed his delight over the NDC administration's decision to abolish the betting tax. He described the policy as ineffective and counterproductive, citing its failure to yield positive results in various jurisdictions. That leads us into the business news with Juliana Menuafo after this quick break. Stay with us.
Imagine a place where voices matter, where every corner, every street, every community is a platform. Join us every Friday as 3FM Sunrise hits the road, turning ordinary streets into platforms for extraordinary dialogue. Speak freely, listen deeply, and help shape the conversation that drives Ghana forward.
3FM Sunrise Mobile Edition is supported by Royal VVIP and Studio 502.
Accra, Ghana, Africa, and worldwide. Join us on Inspirational Gospel Mix this and every Sunday. 3FM. what is your favorite scripture?
Well, my favorite scripture is Romans 8:28, and it says, all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord. Kwame, that is absolutely my favorite scripture.
Yes, your inspirational gospel mix, a moment to get inspired with the best of inspirational songs and interviews to get you prepared for the new week on every Sunday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. with me, your big brother, Kwame Adu, mixing G, mixing gospel. You can't miss it. You are blessed as you listen. 3FM 92.7.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
And welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, the Finance Minister nominee, Dr. Kaysa Latoforsen, has been urged to prioritize entrepreneurial support schemes for small and medium-sized enterprises. We'll bring you details of that and more shortly. Please stay with me. Now the details. Finance Minister nominee Dr. Kaysa Latoforsen has been urged to prioritize entrepreneurial support schemes for small and medium-sized enterprises to address youth unemployment in the country. Chief Executive of Go Compliance Solutions, James Ofori, believes that SMEs hold a potential to create more job opportunities in the country. The following report has more.
Finance Minister nominee Dr. Kaysa Latoforsen is expected to outline his plans to stabilize the economy and support key sectors when confirmed by Parliament. Speaking to 3 Business, Chief Executive of Health, Safety, Security, Environment and Quality Consulting Company, Go Compliance Solutions, James Ofori stressed the need for targeted interventions such as funding access, tax reliefs, among others, to enable SMEs to thrive in the current economic climate.
The issue of unemployment shouldn't be something that we should be discussing over and over, to be a thing of the past. So we hope for good policies and then good entrepreneurial support schemes to boom, to grow the local industries.
James Ofori also made a case for SMEs to obtain standard certification in order to scale up.
Currently, we are already doing ISO certification campaigns for some local businesses. So when you want to get certified, there are a number of things that you'll be required to do or fulfill based on the requirement. And some of them, they are tailored to streamline the operations of the business.
In more stories, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana has questioned the government's decision to place agribusiness under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. According to Chief Executive Farmer Anthony Morrison, the sector is already overwhelmed by the numerous ministries involved, leading to lengthy and inefficient bureaucratic processes. The Chamber, however, advocates for a ministry that can effectively address the sector's unique challenges. He therefore urged the government to engage in further consultations to find a more suitable solution.
Those of us in the agricultural and agribusiness sector or the agro industry, we move between Ministry of Local Government, where the Department of Agriculture is. We come to MOFA, Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We go to Ministry of Trade and Industries. Then we go to Ministry of Environment, and sometimes we go to Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and also Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. So just within, and sometimes, of course, Ministry of Finance, okay? So we were of the view that we could just have one parent ministry to reduce our cost of operation, to reduce all the encumbrances and the long bureaucratic system so we can address our problems appropriately.
That was the voice of Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Anthony Morrison, there. Before we go, Fitch Ratings has stated that improved growth and fiscal reforms should reduce Sub-Saharan Africa's government's debt to gross domestic product ratio, while lowering policy rates will ease domestic financing costs. However, the median average financing costs will rise further, and interest or revenues will be uncomfortably high for many countries in the region. According to the UK-based firm, financing challenges will remain, particularly for those at the lower end of the rating scale, including Ghana and Zambia. But the 3 common framework restructurings are expected to be completed in 2025. Both Ghana and Zambia have ratings of CCC+. Now that's it for the business segment on Hot Edition. For more stories, kindly log on to our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Menu Afo. Stay tuned. Sports News is up next.
Early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hey, ready to make your drive home epic? It's the 3FM Drive with the one and only Giovanni Caleb, right here on 3FM 92.7. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're transforming your commute into a top-tier experience. Need a pick-me-up? Our music belt is pure energy, pure vibes. Stay ahead with the Drive Sports, bringing you the latest scores and highlights. Curious about the stars? We've got all the hottest trends, celebrity profile interviews, plus DJ faculty has got you.
Ready? Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays on 3FM Drive. You know where it's at.
This is where the action is at, live on the 3FM Drive on 3FM 92.7. Welcome to the 3FM Drive. That's right!
It's now time for sports here on 3FM's Hot Edition. My name is Mutala Yakubu. Now, let's kick off things with some news about the Black Stars, because reports suggest that assistant coaches John Paintel and Joseph Luman may be leaving their roles as the Ghana Football Association looks to restructure the team's technical setup. Paintel and Luman have been serving as assistant coaches under Otoado since his return for a second stint with the national team. Now, the decision to replace both is said to be part of a broader strategy strategy by the Ghana Football Association to elevate the team's performance on the global stage after failure to qualify for the 2025 AFCON. My colleague Enoch Fifi Forsen shared his view on this development.
If the reports are to be believed, then I think it's a step in the right direction, because I've always argued that Otto Addo's second stint has not been a success simply because his backroom staff, I feel, are not up to standard. John Pencil, Joseph Lohman, Fatal Dauda. I have nothing against them, but I feel we can't go from Masoud Didi Dramani, George Boateng, Richard Kingston as assistant coaches to this level. I feel they have not contributed enough, and Otto has paid yearly for it. I'm also surprised that Otto still keeps his job, because he's the head of the technical team, and if the technical team has performed poorly, he should be the first to be sacked.
So that is my colleague Enoch Fifi Forsen there sharing his view on the latest development that John Pinto and Joseph Luman may be sacked by the Ghana Football Association. Moving on, let's do something about the Black Princesses, because their former coach, Yusuf Bazigi, has shared his thoughts on the key factors he believes is limiting the team's ability to make an impact at the Under-20 Women's World Cup. The Princesses have failed to progress beyond the group stage in 7 appearances at the tournament, and Bazigi attributes this in part to the educational levels of the players.
Problem is about education. The problem is not about the coaching. The problem is about education of the players. The level of their education is very low. It's below average, honestly speaking. So their understanding of the modern trend of the game is a problem.
Yusuf Bazigi is a former Black Princesses coach, and he spoke to my colleague Akosieje, who is a women's football expert here at 3 Sports. Now moving on to England, where Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has praised the attitude of his team after they came from a goal down to beat their North London rivals Tottenham 2-1 in an English Premier League game last night. An own goal from Solanke and a strike from Trossard was enough to ensure Arsenal does the double over Spurs.
We were sensational. I think it was a good test to see after 2 big performances and not getting rewarded in 2 different competitions. You have to play the biggest game of the season for our people in those conditions. And it's a test of attitude, what we are made of, the courage that we have, how much we really care only about a result or the performance, and how much we can do in terms of what is required in the game to be better than the opposition. And I think we play from the minute 1 to hurt them with or without the ball. I think we fully deserve to win the game. And I think we made a lot of people very happy, but especially very proud to see a team that behaves in the manner that they have played today.
So that was Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta there. Remember that the Gunners are currently second on the English Premier League table and are keeping the heat on Liverpool, who occupy the top spots. Away from that, let's finish off with some tennis, because American tennis player Taylor Fritz says he will be donating the prize money earned from his first round victory at the Australian Open, which is about $82,000, to relief funds to help people affected by the wildfires in Los Angeles area. The wildfires have killed at least 25 people and swept through 40,000 acres in the greater Los Angeles area. Fritz says donating the cash is the least he can do.
Yeah, I just want everyone to obviously stay safe. It's just insane what happened, and I wanted to say something after my first round match, but I'm gonna be donating my first round prize money to LA wildfire relief funds. And it's really the least I can do. Southern California is my home, and LA's LA was my home for a very long time. So just doing what I can possibly do to help, and I would encourage anyone else that can donate to help too, because a lot of people.
Taylor Fritz there competing in the current Australian Open, and his gesture has received wide applause from many on the American continent. That's all by way of sports here on 3FM's Hot Edition. My name is Mutala Yakubu. There's more after this.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
I wake up early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiampofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
So here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's head to the Ashanti region now, where we understand police in that place have commenced investigations to arrest perpetrators involved in the shooting of a former chief at Kokobing in the Achuma Ngwabiaja district, Ngwabiaja North district. And we have on the line with us Ibrahim Abubakar. He's a man in that part of the country. Ibrahim, can you tell us who this chief is and the circumstances surrounding the shooting? We understand he died in that incident.
Well, Nana Okofru Buabuatin, he lives at Kokobin New Site, like you said, in the Achwan Webeja North District. Now, he's a former chief because he was distilled somewhere last year owing to some issues. But according to the family, they suspect contract killing because they claim that Nana Buatin had survived a similar attack that was within last year, even though as we speak, the suspect of that attack remain unidentified because no one has been arrested. So, in fact, he was just from work coming home when he met his untimely death. In fact, they were not even aware until later in the evening when they saw a lifeless body in a pool of blood lying there, and someone prompted them. Initially, the resident thought the deceased is even a thief who has been lynched. Later, they realized that he is Nana Buatin, a former chief in the area. So as we speak, the police has deposited the body at the morgue, awaiting autopsy, whilst investigation has also commenced to find out the people behind this act and possibly arrest them, and also find out even what even led to the shooting and killing of Nana Buatin.
Sounds like a very sad situation there. Are you able to tell us how old he was and perhaps the immediate reaction from the family and the community?
Well, this is a 46-year-old as we speak. His wife and his children are out of the country, but the family are still in shock because they said they are unable to even point anyone who has any confrontation or issue with Nana Buatin. So for now, they do not suspect anyone, but looking at the incident that happened last year, surviving a similar gun attack, they believe there are people who are behind it. And for this unfortunate incident to have happened, you go to the community, and the people, residents, they are in shock, and it has even instilled fear and panic among members of the community.
So are they asking for police protection, or perhaps is the police taking the initiative to send more men there to kind of reassure them?
Well, they want police protection. They want police visibility, at least in that area, to ensure that this doesn't happen to anyone at all. But after the police came there, picked the body, they all left. But they are calling for at least patrolling of that community once in a while, so that such incidents wouldn't reoccur again.
Has there been any word from the police as regards the demand from the community people?
Well, for now, no word from the police. We tried speaking to the police. They said all communication or all information will later be communicated by the headquarters. But they have assured them of intermittent patrolling in the area, because they cannot be in the community alone. They also have to patrol other areas. But that assurance has been given by the commander when they visited the crime scene.
Right, we'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar. Just keep an eye on that, and I know you bring us the latest as and when you have it. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We go to the Upper East region, where we understand that unidentified gunmen have attacked a cargo truck in Misinga in the Boko municipality of the Upper East region. Security sources say that the vehicle was moving from Kulungungu border to Boko town under military escort when it was attacked. We understand there were no casualties. Well, but the latest attack actually comes barely 2 days after President John Mahama led a high-powered government delegation to hold peace negotiation talks with the Boko Naba and the Nairi as part of efforts to find a lasting solution to the chieftaincy conflict. The conflict, since its resurgence last year, has left more than 40 people dead and several maimed. Properties running into millions of cedis have also been destroyed, and we'll bring you more as and when we have it. Now, the Fisheries Commission is racing against time to reveal the cause of a mysterious fish disease affecting catch in Kambungli in the Lembele district of the Western region. Fishermen there report that for the past months, fish caught have severe skin abnormalities characterized by red swollen lesions that quickly escalate into gaping wounds. The abdomen is also usually rotten, with the scales falling off in patches, rendering them unsellable and unfit for consumption. We know that the MP for the area, Emmanuel Amakufibwa, has called for swift intervention in the unfolding fish disease crisis in that community. In a statement made available to 3FM, Mr. Boa urged the Western Regional Fisheries Commission to expedite sample collection and testing, warning that delays could worsen the plight of the affected communities. Let's listen to the Director of Fisheries at the Fisheries Commission, Dr. Fred Entry Buodi, speaking to us earlier.
And on the 12th of January, the Fisheries Commission were alerted of the fish diseases in the Elembele district. So, Fisheries Commission, in collaboration with Ghana Standard Authority, Ghana Water Research Institute, were dispatched experts to the area on the 14th of January. And apparently the community has asked the fishermen to also stop fishing. And their reason is that they are not too familiar with the species. So they needed it to be examined so that they will know whether it is edible or not. So the team from the Fisheries Commission and the other government organizations, institutions has been there. And the purpose was to comprehensively take the data and then examine the water quality assessment, the toxicological studies, do that one, and then do the identification of the potential contaminants that may compromise the food safety. And the findings will be crucial to determine the cause of the disease.
Right. So Doc,
yes, please.
What are we seeing? Are we seeing mutations? Because from what I'm seeing, it's supposed to be tilapia or look like tilapia, but it appears not to look like it. Preliminarily, what are we seeing? Mutations or just a case of disease?
Okay, so I'm sure that the result from the test will determine. But it is a freshwater fish, and they said is steak fish. So I'm sure once the results come out, we will all know. So we took samples from River Fee, we took some from River Ibi, and then Amanzulu. And as we speak, the team is at the lab, the veterinary service lab, to do the examination. One out of the two are ready for reading, and then hopefully by Tuesday that one should be out. So I'm sure by next week we should have all the reports from the three agencies put together, and it will be given to the public. But I think the decision from the community to halt the fishing for now is also wonderful.
You had Dr. Fred Enchibwedi. He is the Director of Fisheries at the Fisheries Commission, speaking earlier to Mawina Egbeta. Erama Smith is a woman who brought us that report. She joins us live on the line now. Erama, are you able to bring us the latest regarding this situation in the community?
Right. So as we heard from the Fisheries Commission, they were in the community yesterday to take samples, and then other institutions were also there. But what is a bigger challenge to the community is that, their livelihoods revolve around that river, the river Ebi. They catch fish, the fisherfolk fish in it. That place is also a tomato producing area. They farm in tomatoes, and they depend on that river for their farming activities. There's also an associated brewing center there, which also depends on that river. So it's like all their life revolves around that river, and they've been asked to stay away from it. So you can imagine the impact on their livelihoods, and they are appealing for some support during this period that they are supposed to stay away from the water. So this is basically it. When you go into the community, they are desolate. They don't know what to do next. They were also asked one other thing. Some of them had bought some of the fish or put some in their refrigerators ready to be smoked or whatever. They were asked to bury those fishes. So they are everything is on hold now in that community. They are waiting for feedback from these investigative bodies, and also a little bit of support for sustenance during this waiting period.
Erama, I'm just looking at the video you sent us earlier. It seems the river looks polluted. I mean, from a layman's perspective. You're saying that they use that same river for their tomato farms and all of that. Has there been any complaint as regards these vegetables that they use, around this river or water body?
It's been barely a month since they started experiencing this. So the complaints have been basically about the fish, because that is what we see for now. So for the others, they haven't really seen, if there's anything at all, you can't physically see with your eyes. What they complain about is the stench from the water. It's very nauseous. It's like leaving stale fish in the water for a period of time. That kind of thing. That's what's emanating from the river, and the fish actually seeing it. So basically, that is it. Nobody has yet complained of any ailment that they can link it. We spoke to the medical director at the and they are very hesitant when they don't have any scientific proof. So there could be reports of stomachache and all that, but they can't link it to the river yet.
Irama Smith, thank you so much for bringing us that report from the Western region. And that's it for the news here on 3FM 92.7. Log on to 3news.com for more news. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Do have a good evening and enjoy the rest of our programs.